Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA show for the week. Jumping right into it, we're going to go into the so-so segments of the night. Wasn't bad, wasn't good, was just there. First up, the segment with Rhino, Rockstar Spud, and EC3 coming to the ring, talking about what happened last week with Dixie. That brings out Kurt Angle, which brings out the police. They get escorted out of the building. I don't know, to me, just a kind of a waste of time and time-filling segment. Just boring, in my opinion. Next up, Mr. Anderson versus Gunner. We've seen there have been tension between the two, directly related to Samuel Shaw. The match was okay. When they had Samuel Shaw come down and break it up and there be no resolution of it, to me that's where it kind of went off the rails. I mean, it just... I guess they're building on one of the two turning heel, but to me it just... I don't know, it just fell flat. Kind of like this next match, the four-way for the Knockouts title, Gail Kim versus Velvet Sky versus Angelina Love versus Taryn Terrell. Ended up being a clusterfuck of a match with all four of the women. Too many women, not enough time, and the match suffered. Gail picked up the win, but just to me, they tried to squeeze too much into one match. It just... I've seen better from all four of them, so I expected better going in, but that's what we got. Coming off of that, we're going to go right into our question of the week. Question of the week was, what tag team would you like to see reunited? Based off of form recently seeing the Hardy Boys and Team 3D, aka the Dudley Boys, reunite. We're going to go some answers from our friends. First is from Zombies40. Beer Money would be cool if they reunited. Next is from our friend Luke Norman. The tag team I would like to see reform is Beer Money and see them face the Hardys, because back in, I think, 2011, they built Matt having a mystery partner against Beer Money, and I was hoping it was Jeff. They even had Beer Money say it was clearly Jeff, but it turned out to be Chris Harris, James Storm's old tag partner. So I like that, a little bit of backstory and reasoning as to why, payoff on a match you never got to see. Last but not least, our friend at AUP116 from Twitter. I wanted to keep it as a tag team return or reform, but the Naturals, America's Most Wanted, Diamonds in the Rough, or SEX, SEX, Sports Entertainment Extreme. More of a group than a team, I believe, by the end of it. Diamonds in the Rough, really cool concept that never... It was early on in the TNA history and I've never felt that TNA really got behind them. I liked the team though, it was a good concept. Just for whatever reason the bad people in the back didn't get behind it. To me there's one team, and I'll keep it TNA specific, but it really is my answer for any team in any company, and that would be the Motor City Machine Guns. I just thought that their chemistry and their talents together was such a great tag team that we're kind of robbed of seeing them for the next 10 years. They should have been one of them teams like the Rock and Roll Express or the Midnight Express or Legion of Doom that just stayed a team and stayed it for most of career. And I know all those teams I mentioned had parts where they split up and came back together, but to me they were taken away at the height of their popularity, and they could have went on, like I said, the next 10 years could have been the Motor City Machine Guns being dominant as a tag team. I just love them as a team. I think they're probably one of the better tag teams of this century. Now, coming off of that, our question of the week for this week is, who is your favorite current knockout on the TNA roster? Let us know who you think. Hit us up on our Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down there in the comments. Next up, we're going to go right into the good segments tonight. First thing I want to talk about is the opening segment with Bully Ray coming out, bringing out Devon, and the Hardys coming out, setting up a match for later in the show. Just a cool little moment to have all four of these guys with such a storied history with each other in the ring together. Cool way to start the show. A good way to pique fan interest. The main thing you want to do with your opening segment is keep the fans tuned in to the ending segment, or keep them tuned in at least to the next segment. And this gave something for the fans, even the casual fans, to look forward to, seeing the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys again, which was really cool opener. Like I said, kept us going, kept us as to what to expect for later. Next thing I really liked was the antithesis of the four-way Divas match. This one got a little bit more time, had more people in it, and it was worked a little bit better. We had Low Key versus Crazy Steve versus Manic versus Tigre Uno versus DJZ versus Homicide, and an elimination match for the #1 contender for the TNA title, or X Division title. Low Key picks up the win, basically. I don't want to get into every little elimination, just, it would take me longer than probably the rest of the video put together if I did. Good match, some good set portions where Low Key and Homicide worked together for a while. You had Manic showing off his impressive skills, Tigre Uno as well, DJZ proving he belongs. The only one that didn't really stand out was Crazy Steve, and I don't really know what they're doing with the menagerie, but after the hype that they gave him, they're kind of fading him back into the back. So I don't know. Maybe they've already given up on the group. Next up, we have a 6-man tag match. Kenny King, Bobby Lashley, and MVP versus Austin Aries, Eric Young, and Bobby Roode. Good overall match. I like the continuation of this feud. I like that Aries, Roode, and Young have formed some kind of a group to counteract King, Lashley, and MVP's group. I like Roode chasing after Lashley for the world title. I think even if Roode doesn't get the title from Lashley, it makes Lashley a more credible TNA champion, that he beat basically the best of the TNA champions in Bobby Roode. But a good match overall. MVP's team picks up the win, which brings us into our next segment. Abyss talking about getting Janice back from Bram. Bram coming out, them setting up a match, which is basically a ladder match with all kinds of weapons for the next week. Bram accepts, Abyss attacks, tries to get Janice back. Bram and Magnus get the overhand, run away with Janice. Usually I'm not a huge fan of Abyss's promos. He's not that great at it. I really enjoyed the element that Bram brought into it, and I'm really continually to be more and more surprised with how good Bram is and how well he's playing this role. I think it's something it's adding a lot to the show, for me at least, is seeing this guy and his evolution into TNA wrestling. I think it's awesome. Which, just a great segment setting up for what should be a good hardcore style match, which we all know Abyss excels in, and we've seen recently Bram excelling in as well. Last but not least, the main event of the night, Jeff and Matt, the Hardy Boys, versus Bully Ray and Devon, Team 3D, aka the Dudley Boys, because they came out in their, I believe it's WrestleMania 2000 gear, where they wore the urban camo. Same thing, you could obviously tell it was the same ones, because where it would say Dudley Boys, they had it taped over, and it was the same logos that the WWE used. Obviously they can't use those in TNA, they can't even be the Dudley Boys. So, which is another point for another discussion. But anyway, fantastic tag team match. You had everything you could want. You had two teams that could still go. You had the nostalgia factor. You had two of the biggest stars in TNA over the past few years in Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray. You had the feel-good moment of seeing the Hardys back together, the feel-good moment of seeing Team 3D together. The crowd was hot, the match was good, left us all on a really high point. Team 3D picks up the win. You see all four men standing in the ring to end the show, holding each other's arms up in kind of a show of respect. To me, like I said, everything you wanted just filmed into one tag match. I thought it was great. I thought if you were a new fan, you would enjoy it. If you've been a fan of either of these teams or both of these teams for years, you're going to enjoy that. They sold and they came through on giving us kind of a dream rematch, which is really cool, I thought, in my opinion. Good thing. This is one of those things that was good and kind of felt like they did it just for the fans. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go on our ratings for the week. Now, if you've seen the show before, or even if you haven't, you know we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. A 1 is a Dixie Carter, 2 is a Rockstar Spud, 3 is a Gunner, 4 is a James Storm, 5 is Bobby Roode. Gave the show a 4, a James Storm. Another solid show. Last week to me was a hiccup. It fell down a bit. But over the past 2 months or so, TNA has really been producing solid 4 or 5 rated shows. Either a 4, this one I give a 4, or a James Storm. Just good, good character development, good interview segments, and good matches. It's a simple concept. If you want to have people tune in to watch a wrestling show, give them good content. Give them simplistic, and I'm not saying it has to be, so simple that a 5-year-old can understand, but you want that audience too. Give them a simple reason why you don't like this guy. I don't like him because, you know, Lashley, MVP, and King don't like Aries, Rude, and Eric Young don't like them because they've been screwing them over. Simple. You understand why they're fighting. Team 3 and the Hardys going in a tag team match. Simple. You see why. You see 2 teams that are considered 2 of the best of this generation wanting to prove who's the best. Easy to follow. Easy to keep up with. If this is the first show I tune into, I'm not lost automatically going with some convoluted storyline where there's been 3 or 4 heel turns, 5 face turns, someone's wife left him for another man, and then that man left her for another woman. Nothing like that. Keep everything simple, keep it in line, give us a coherent storylines, good matches, and good promos, and that's what fans will tune in to watch. But basically, that's all I have to say about this. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.